Chapter 24, Granite Moves Up, page 144. As the weeks passed, Snowdrift's strength returned. She moved freely, without pain. Her eyes were still blank, but her ears and her nose told her all she needed to know. She could hear a mouse rustle in the grass or a hare hopping on spruce needles. When she joined the evening games of tag and chase, she never bumped another wolf or stumbled on rocks in her path. Sometimes it was hard for Granite to believe that she was blind. The wolves moved and hunted and moved, just as they had when Snowdrift could see. Had it not been for Romer and Strider, life in the pack would have been good for Granite that autumn. The dog had stopped growing, but he was still the smallest member of the pack. His chest was broad, and his legs were short and stocky. His neck was short and thick. With their long, slender necks and willowy legs, the wolves towered over him. Despite Granite's short legs, he was almost as good a hunter as Romer. He could catch fish from the stream and trap a porcupine without getting a face full of quills. Once he even caught a beaver, who was so absorbed in gnawing at a sapling that he took it by surprise. When he hunted on his own, he had learned to travel in a straight line as wolves do, instead of wandering back and forth across the trail dog fashion, sniffing at every stray scent. He knew how to join in driving prey toward a waiting hunter. He could tell when a moose or caribou was tiring and open to attack. He had learned to search the sky for ravens who often hovered above distant herds of game, and to listen for their cries. Although Ebony paid no attention to Granite, he watched the leader carefully and learned some of his hunting tricks. While the pack rested, Granite often went into the woods and practiced the way Ebony turned swiftly, reversing direction and surprising his prey. He also practiced Ebony's special style of stalking animals, moving stealthily through the grass or over the rocks. Granite learned to stalk so quietly and slowly that he could creep within a wolf's leap of a creature before it knew he was there. He did this even when he was not hungry, making a game of slipping next to an unsuspecting squirrel or fox, then leaping out of the grass with a loud bark. As Granite watched the frightened creature flee, he often thought of Climber and how the young wolf would have enjoyed this game. On a crisp fall afternoon, Granite started up the slope above the resting place, moving carefully among the orange and scarlet bushes. Pretending that he was Ebony stalking a porcupine, he crouched close to the ground. Halfway up the slope, he saw a marmot waddling across an open space. Granite caught his breath. In autumn, a marmot was a delicious treat, full of fat stored for the winter. Before the moon grew large again, the creature would be slumbering in its rocky burrow, safe until spring. Marmots are furry creatures with small ears and short bushy tails. Their short legs make them so slow that they give wolves a wide berth. This one must have seen the pack below and decided that their slumber made it safe to venture out. Keeping his eyes on the marmot, Granite crept even more slowly than before. Between each step, he froze and waited until the marmot looked the other way before moving. The marmot never knew Granite was there. The dog moved so close he feared the marmot could hear him breathe. Then he pounced, grabbed the animal in his jaws, and gave it a mighty shake. Filled with pride, Granite carried the marmot back down the hill. He planned to share the meal with Snowdrift. Just before Granite reached the pack, Romer awoke and looked about. He saw Granite, and he smelled the meat the dog carried. Romer jumped up and ran toward Granite, his tail held high. With 3 leaps, he was at Granite's side. The hair on his shoulders bristled, and his tail trembled. His brown eyes stared into the blue eyes of the dog. Romer raised his ears, stretched his legs, and bared his teeth. He growled without stopping for breath. As the lowest-ranking pack member, Granite was supposed to drop his prey at Romer's feet. Then he was supposed to crouch and back away with his ears flat and his tail between his legs. He didn't. Granite's tail and ears rose, and his hair stood high. He stared back at Romer, trying to look confident. Holding the marmot tightly in his teeth, Granite growled. Romer's eyes widened. He looked bewildered. A lowly dog had dared to challenge him. There was a moment of silence. Then he snapped at Granite. Granite dropped his prey. The pair circled about, snarling at each other. For a moment they were side by side, and before Granite could move, Romer lunged at his flank. The dog sidestepped. As he whirled back, he felt the wolf's hot breath and heard the click of his teeth. Again they circled. Granite watched Romer closely. He seemed nervous. The dog rushed at the wolf. Using his heavy chest, Granite shoved hard. Romer tumbled off his feet. Opening his jaws wide, Granite leaped for Romer's neck and fastened his teeth in the wolf's shoulder. Romer turned his head to the side and closed his teeth on Granite's ear. The dog felt a stab of pain, but did not let go. The commotion wakened the other wolves. They gathered around the fighting pair. The wolves made no sound. No one interfered. Romer and Granite rolled over and over. Granite wondered how long he could hold on. Then Romer's mouth opened, releasing Granite's ear. He whined. Granite straddled the wolf and lowered his head. Blood ran down the dog's face and into his eye, but he kept snarling. Romer, his ears flat against his head, lay half on his side and half on his back. His paw was drawn up and his belly was exposed. His tail was tucked between his legs. Holding his tail proudly above his back, Granite stared fiercely at the black wolf who had harassed him for so long. Romer whimpered. It was a puppy's whimper, helpless and imploring. After a few seconds, Granite stopped snarling and licked Romer's face, letting the wolf know that Granite accepted his submission. Then Granite stepped back. Romer got to his feet, keeping his tail between his legs. He licked the side of Granite's face, just as he did with Strider. With the fight over, the other wolves trotted back down the hill. It made little difference to them who had won, but it made a great deal of difference to Granite. The dog picked up his marmot and walked away, his head high. Never again would Romer torment him. Granite had moved up in the pack.